The film opens in a quiet coastal neighborhood near Seattle, where Jason, an unemployed engineer, is finishing a fishing trip. As a dark storm cloud moves in, he decides to head home before the weather gets worse, with the forecast predicting nothing more than heavy rain and possible coastal flooding. Everyone goes about their day as usual, completely unaware of what's about to happen. Back at home, Jason wakes the rest of the family with donuts for breakfast, and they gather around the table. Anne reminds him not to feed Cassidy because he has just taken his heart medication. As they eat, Graham mentions that the streaming service has stopped working. Jason jokes that it's probably because the house is getting old. Anne says she's ready to move whenever he is, but Jason says they're all set after buying a couple of lottery tickets. Anne apologizes and tells him it's not all on him. She then mentions that a guy is coming the next day to check the cracks in the chimney. According to him, the chimney is probably the only thing holding the house together because the foundation is weak. The kids then beg Jason to take them to buy a Christmas tree despite the rain. Although he's reluctant at first, Graham reminds him of the promise he made, and Jason eventually agrees. As the family gets ready to leave, they discover that none of the doors or windows will open. At first, they assume it's just a prank, but when they realize the Wi-Fi and cell service are also down, panic begins to set in. Jason throws his weight against the front door, only to be violently thrown backward. He then grabs a long metal bar and smashes one of the windows, revealing a strange rain-like barrier covering the house, making it clear they're completely trapped inside. They soon discover the entire neighborhood is trapped. They spot their neighbor Susan returning from her morning run and beg her to get help. She promises to come back with help. As more neighbors appear at their windows, everyone begins communicating through handwritten signs, trying to figure out what's happening. Some believe it's the government, while others suspect aliens, but no one has any real answers. Trying to keep the kids calm, Jason and Anne pass the time pointing out the neighbors. Richardson's across the street, Greg, Susan's husband, the woman with the dog, and the doofus with the boat called Seize the Day. That night, Jason reassures the family that they're safe and have everything they need. After the kids go to bed, Anne admits she's struggling to stay calm and worries about her parents. Jason reassures her that they'll be okay. He then reveals that he's secretly bought a gun after having recurring nightmares that something bad was coming. Although upset that he kept it from her, especially with the kids in the house, Anne eventually asks him to teach her how to use it before he puts it away. Jason tries everything he can to break through the barrier, but nothing works. When Anne checks on him, he explains that the strange rain-like barrier has completely sealed the house. After confirming that fresh air is still getting inside, they realize suffocation isn't a concern. Anne believes they just need to wait for the rain to stop, but Jason points out that the barrier doesn't appear to be man-made. But Anne simply tells him to cover the openings so the kids won't see them. The next morning, the rain has stopped. Hoping the barrier's gone, Jason and Anne check the front door, but it still won't open. Surprisingly, Graham and Ruth remain calm, trusting that their parents will figure everything out. As the family settles into a routine, Anne sets rules to keep life as normal as possible, while Jason begins rationing their food and reminds everyone to conserve water, electricity, and gas. He reassures the kids that the situation is only temporary and promises that he and Anne will keep them safe. Jason tries homeschooling the kids, but they quickly lose interest. He switches the lesson to teaching them how to gut a fish using Ruth's stuffed animals, revealing that he once owned a fishing boat before selling it to support the family. When Anne catches the kids using knives, she scolds Jason, though he assures her they're being careful. A week later, while Anne is cutting a tomato, Jason is about to throw away the seeds, but she stops him and decides to dry them so they can plant them later. Through handwritten signs, Jason learns from Max that the strange phenomenon has spread about 5 blocks. The two also talk about their jobs before Max, a retired dentist, admits he's already running low on food. Over the next few weeks, the family slowly adapts to their new life. They keep themselves busy by dancing, watching movies, exercising, and spending more time together, while Anne continues learning how to grow food, and Jason takes care of chores around the house. As Christmas arrives, they put up a tree and watch their neighbors celebrate Christmas through their windows. That night, while in the attic, Ruth tells Graham she thinks the mysterious rainwalker has returned, but he brushes it off as just an animal. With food supplies running low, the kids complain about the meal and refuse to eat it. Jason simply takes the food from their plates and eats it himself. Ruth then says she saw someone outside. Anne dismisses it as her imagination, but when Ruth insists it was the rainwalker, Jason loses his temper, reminding her that everyone is trapped inside. He quickly apologizes for raising his voice. Anne then surprises the family with homemade cookies made without real sugar. Later that night, Anne and Jason quietly worry about how the situation is affecting the kids, reassuring each other they're doing the best they can. They then share a quiet moment smoking the last joint they find in a drawer before watching one of their old DVDs together. Jason admits that, in a strange way, being trapped with his family has made him happier. Anne then spots a fox outside and quietly wishes it good luck. The next morning, the family exchanges simple Christmas gifts before the kids surprise Anne with the first tomato grown from her saved seeds, bringing her to tears. Their joy is short-lived when Ruth spots Mrs. Richardson outside trying to get their attention. Before they can react, she suddenly collapses and dies. Later that night, Ruth wakes up to play with her doll when she hears a high-pitched sound outside. She looks out the window and spots Susan, prompting the rest of the family to rush over. Susan begs for help, revealing that everyone outside is dead. She then hears something nearby and tells them to hide. An invisible force suddenly grabs her and drags her away as she screams. Bright light flashes as she disappears. Jason then gathers the family and sets new rules. Stay away from the windows when it rains and keep the curtains closed. The next day, Jason starts a PE class for the kids. While Graham runs laps around the house, Ruth practices aerial silks. The chimney cap suddenly comes loose, revealing a narrow opening to the outside. Since Ruth is small enough to fit through the narrow gap, the family uses the aerial silk to pull her up toward the chimney so she can check it out. She manages to reach through the opening, but only her hand can get outside. Ruth then climbs back down. Soon after, Cassidy begins whimpering as her medication wears off. Realizing there's nothing they can do, Jason asks Anne to take the kids into the den before he puts her down. Later, Anne suggests cremating Cassidy in the fireplace, but Jason suggests storing Cassidy's meat in the freezer in case they become desperate for food. Though horrified, Anne tells him to handle it without telling her the details, and Jason stores the meat in the freezer. Jason throws Cassidy's remains out through the chimney for the fox, but when the rain returns, it runs away. The family closes the curtains and waits quietly. Despite her parents' warning, Ruth goes to the window to get her plant. The creatures suddenly growl, forcing everyone to stay silent until they leave. Frightened, Ruth runs back to her parents as Anne comforts her. 3 months pass. Ruth complains that she's still hungry, so Jason gives her his portion, but she wants more. She runs to the fridge, but Anne blocks her. Jason tells Anne to let her see, and Ruth finds the fridge and cupboards completely empty. Heartbroken, she runs upstairs in tears. Weak from hunger, Anne collapses. While Jason refuses to give up, Anne believes all hope is lost. Just then, Graham brings over the fish from the aquarium and asks them to cook it. Seeing Graham step up gives Anne a little hope. Jason soon realizes the meat left outside has attracted animals, so he begins using it to set traps. After many failed attempts, he finally catches a squirrel, giving the family their first decent meal in a long time. Wanting a more permanent solution, Jason and Anne start growing food inside the house by turning part of the floor into a garden. As time passes, the family finds ways to adapt, making their own fertilizer and setting traps to bring in fresh meat. While many outside starve or lose hope, the family stays together and refuses to give up. Years pass, and the electricity finally cut off. 5 years later, Graham and Ruth are fully grown. Outside, the neighborhood is almost silent, with most of the neighbors gone. Jason still hunts wild animals every day to feed his family. While Anne gives Jason a haircut, she tells him Graham has become more frustrated as he gets older. Jason also improves the trap so every animal caught is pulled into the house automatically. As the rain keeps falling year after year, the house slowly starts sinking into the ground. Later, Jason shows the family that he has repaired their old car. Graham calls it pointless since they can never leave the house. Jason argues that they should keep working because the rain could stop someday, and they might finally be able to leave. The argument ends with Graham storming off. Later, Anne tells Jason the kids are growing up without him because he's too focused on survival. Jason realizes she's right. Soon, another storm rolls in, and the family seals the house once again. This time, a creature forces its way inside as the front door mysteriously opens. Everyone hides while it searches every room. The freezing cold from its body kills the plants Anne worked so hard to grow. She asks Jason for the gun, but before she can act, the creature hears something outside and leaves the house. Graham urges everyone to run, but Jason stops him. Moments later, The front door slams shut on its own. Ruth then notices the water left behind isn't rainwater. It's seawater. Ruth says the creatures could be Leviathan, Kraken, or even mermaids. She explains that most of the ocean floor is still unexplored, so they might not be aliens at all. They could be ancient sea creatures that have returned to their own world, which could explain how they control the rain and water. Jason disagrees and says their house is still their home. The salt water has now ruined Anne's garden and contaminated their drinking water. Anne says they'll starve like the others. Jason argues that they can collect dew and plant again, but Anne tells him they don't have enough water. They get into a heated argument, with Anne saying they can't stay trapped in the house forever. If they don't find a way out, they will die. Meanwhile, one of Jason's automatic traps catches a ferret and pulls it into the house. Ruth goes to check it, but the frightened animal bites her. The wound becomes infected, and she develops a high fever. She needs antibiotics, but the family has none. Frustrated, Jason repeatedly slams the car into the garage door, trying to break it open. But the door doesn't move, and Jason ends up badly injured. The family rushes to help him. Seeing the cracks caused by the shifting ground, Jason gets an idea. He follows the cracks through the house, digs into the ground, and discovers the underground sewer pipes connecting the houses. He realizes the pipes lead to the Richardsons' house, where Max, a dentist, might have antibiotics. But the pipe is too small for Jason, so Anne volunteers to go. She crawls through the narrow pipe and safely reaches the Richardson house. Inside, she finds Mrs. Richardson's decomposed body and searches the house for medicine. She eventually finds the antibiotics in the basement and takes some bottles of water with her. Just then, the rain starts falling again. Through the window, Jason sees her with the medicine and urges her to come back, but a creature is already inside the house. Anne hides and sneaks past it before making her way back through the pipe. At the last moment, the creature spots her, forcing Anne to fire her pistol. Jason uses the aerial silk to pull her back into the house. Once Anne is safely inside, Jason breaks apart the opening and covers it with heavy rocks, blocking the creature from getting through. Anne gives Ruth the antibiotics, and her condition slowly improves. Jason then tells Anne to take the kids to the attic so he can face the creature alone if it comes back. Anne refuses, saying they're a family and they have to face it together. Graham then tells them they're done hiding. If the creatures can get inside, they should be able to get outside too. Instead of hiding and waiting to die, they need to fight back. Anne agrees, and Jason eventually agrees too. The family uses whatever they can find around the house to build a trap. Graham will track the creature, Ruth will cast the line, Anne will lure it toward Jason, and Jason will set the hook. Once the trap is ready, they wait for the rain. When it finally comes, water starts rushing into the house from every opening. The creature arrives, and the family puts their plan into action. Anne throws the bomb at it, setting it on fire. Jason attacks it with a harpoon, but his first throw misses. He tries again and hits the creature, but it keeps chasing them. As the water rises, the family moves upstairs. Graham goes back to grab the missed harpoon, but the creature suddenly attacks him. The family pulls him to safety, then retreats to the attic. As the creature reaches them, they face it together, and Jason drives the harpoon into it. The trap pulls the creature down and restrains it. The force creates cracks in the house, allowing the water to drain away. The family tries to open the door, but it won't budge. Jason turns to the creature and tells it to open the door. Anne warns him that the house is falling apart. Jason then realizes the creature may not be trying to hurt them. He cuts the restraints, and the creature opens the door. Outside, they find themselves surrounded by other creatures. The creature they captured communicates with the others, and they move away. The family finds a boat, gathers a few essentials, and sets out to sea to find out if anyone else is still alive.